A bloody ball mysteriously appeared at my doorstep. Feeling playful, I kicked it over to my uncle's house. That night, my uncle's entire family was horrifically murdered. Turns out, the ball was a marker used by the assailants to target their victims. 10 years passed, the killer was never caught, and it became a heavy burden on my conscience. Tonight, 10 years later. Living alone, I was sipping coffee by the window, watching the snow fall. Suddenly, I noticed a blood-stained ball had appeared in my yard, I don't know when. Before I could even react. Bang, bang, bang. Someone was knocking at the door. 1. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. The knocking was urgent and heavy, like a sledgehammer. I jumped, nearly spilling coffee on my skirt. Instinctively, I looked back. There was indeed a ball in the snow. I hadn't imagined it. It was a light blue children's toy ball, half buried in the snow. The ball had dark red bloodstains on it. Almost identical to the one from my memory. The deepest fear in my mind was awakened, and I couldn't stop trembling. Had the killer from all those years ago targeted my house? I'll never forget the scene from 10 years ago when our neighbors, my uncle's family of 4, were brutally murdered. My uncle had been stabbed over a dozen times. My aunt and male cousin were strangled to death. My female cousin suffered the worst. She was inhumanely violated and then ruthlessly tortured. Valuables were looted, and the killers clearly wanted both money and lives. The depravity of it shocked the entire village. After the incident, we moved away from our old home. Now, I live in a house on the outskirts of the city. My parents are away on vacation for a couple of days, leaving just me and my dog at home. Wait, where's Goldie? Goldie is a yellow mutt, usually the best kind of watchdog. His doghouse is in the yard. Why didn't he bark if someone was knocking at midnight? The knocking got louder. I nervously peeked through the peephole. But all I saw was darkness. Someone was deliberately blocking the peephole. You think no one's home? A middle-aged man's voice came from outside. Someone's definitely here, the lights are on. Another male voice replied. They're a gang. Back then, the police had also speculated that there were at least 2 killers in the massacre, possibly more. Hey, anyone home? Open up. They suddenly started shouting. I didn't dare respond. After a few more knocks, the noise stopped. Then, a sharp metallic clanging sound. It sounded like someone taking tools, like a hammer or crowbar, out of a bag. Oh no, they're going to force the door open. My heart pounded. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but the call wouldn't go through. Texts also failed to send, showing a red not delivered message. Could they have some kind of special device blocking my signal? Fear spread rapidly. I completely panicked. I didn't know where Goldie was. As a girl, I stood no chance against 2 men in a direct confrontation. I could either escape through the back door or hide somewhere in the house. The sound of the lock being forced. They were about to get in. I made an instant decision, hide in the house. This house was a pre-owned 2-story place we bought. All the valuables were in the upstairs bedroom. If they were after money, they'd probably focus their search on the bedroom. With that in mind, I went to the bathroom and squeezed into the cabinet under the sink. I had just hidden myself. With a creak, the front door opened. 2. Whoa, it's nice and warm in here, heat's blasting. I was freezing my ass off out there. Gotta warm up. Once they were inside, the 2 men's voices became clearer. Very ordinary voices, one deep and resonant, the other slightly hoarse. If I'd heard them in a crowd, I'd never have imagined they were vicious murderers. The one with the deep voice muttered, "Strange, looks like no one's actually home. Told you no one was here." Unless they knew what we were here for, they'd definitely have asked who was knocking. No way they'd stay silent this long. Quietly, I pushed the cabinet door open a crack and saw two figures, one fat, one thin. They were bundled up, wearing gloves, masks, and hats, and both were carrying tool bags. The thin man spoke, his voice the slightly hoarse one. "Let's get Peter in here. He's been watching the back door for a while. Since no one's home, no need for him to keep an eye on it anymore." My heart sank. There was another one outside. If I'd tried to escape through the back door earlier, I would have run right into him. A wave of fear washed over me. After coming inside, the two didn't rush to do anything, but instead sat down leisurely on the sofa. Soon, the man called Peter came in too, freezing my balls off. "So, is the woman of the house here? I've been craving this for a long time, just waiting for this." "Woman? My ass. Not even a ghost. Let's just find the money and get out of here," the thin one cursed. Peter scoffed. "No fun. Doing a job in this cold weather is such a pain, and can't even blow off some steam." The fat one seemed the most even-tempered. He said, "It's better if no one's here. We just take the money, saves us some trouble." After a bit more bickering, the fat man and Peter went upstairs. The sounds of them rummaging through things, searching for valuables, quickly followed. The thin one didn't go upstairs. He started humming a tune and began searching around the living room. First, he pulled open the drawers of the TV stand, then opened a delivery box on the coffee table. It seemed like he was going to search through everything in the house. I didn't dare breathe, closed the cabinet door tight, and hugged my knees, trembling. It had been so long, and still no sound from my dog. Had they killed Goldie? I remembered when my uncle's family was murdered. Their little black dog hadn't escaped either. It lay dead in a pool of blood with its owners. And if it weren't for Goldie, we would have been the ones brutally killed back then. That day, 10 years ago, when I found the ball at the base of the wall, I didn't think much of it. It was close to the new year, and many people in the village were slaughtering pigs. Even seeing blood on the ball, I didn't take it seriously. I just thought some naughty kid had kicked it to my doorstep. But Goldie at the time kept whining and trying to nudge the ball. I was 12, too old for playing with a ball, but to make the puppy happy, I kicked it around to play with Goldie. After I kicked the ball far away, Goldie finally stopped whining and chased after it. The last thing I saw was him nudging the ball, which had stopped by the roadside, to my uncle's doorstep. I still didn't think anything of it. It wasn't until I woke up the next day that I realized the consequences of Goldie's unintentional action. 3. Right now. What made me despair was, after the thin man finished searching one area, he actually started walking towards the bathroom. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I felt like he was staring right at the cabinet I was hiding in. I held my breath and instinctively fumbled around in the dark. Luckily, I found a pair of utility shears, probably something my mom had casually put in there earlier. As the footsteps got closer and closer, my heart pounded, and sweat dripped from my forehead. Then, a hand rested on the cabinet door. Gripping the shears tightly, I raised my arm, ready for a desperate fight. Just as the door was about to be pulled open, suddenly, clang! A loud crash came from upstairs, followed by a man's scream. Shit! The thin man pulled his hand back from the door and cursed under his breath. He turned and shouted, "Peter, what the hell happened?" Damn it, a dog suddenly lunged out, almost bit through my leg. Good thing my clothes are thick. It was Goldie. Thank God, he wasn't dead. Peter said, coming down from the second floor, "Did you leave the door open? The dog got in and you didn't even know." That's weird. I checked the doghouse before we came in, it was empty, the thin one said, confused. You probably didn't see clearly. It's an old yellow mutt, Peter added. Never mind that for now, come look at this photo. What photo? I saw it upstairs. Look at this little floral dress, and those long legs. Damn, I'd really like to meet this broad. I covered my mouth in horror. The photo Peter was talking about was of me. It was a portrait I had taken with Goldie, always displayed in my bedroom. I never thought it would catch his eye. This dog? Was this the dog that just bit you? The thin man seemed very interested in the Goldie in the photo. Yeah, that's him. After he lunged out, he ran downstairs. He's not in the living room, probably ran out the back door. The thin man chuckled. This dog and the girl are both pretty feisty. Too bad she's not home. Well, don't waste any more time. Get back upstairs, find the stuff, and let's go. All right. Peter went back upstairs to ransack. The thin man sat back down on the sofa. This time, he didn't rummage through anything. I let out a long breath, praying they would leave quickly. Money lost can be earned again. As long as Goldie and I were safe, that's all that mattered. Another 20 minutes passed. Peter and the fat man came downstairs. Found everything? Yeah, no safe in the house. We searched every possible place. Got a decent haul. Alright then, let's go. On to the next house. Several sets of footsteps headed towards the door. Immediately followed by the heavy thud of the front door closing. It was as if a mute button had been pressed. The outside instantly fell into a deathly silence. They were gone. I didn't dare let my guard down and stayed huddled in the cabinet for another 20 minutes. Only when I was sure there were no more unusual sounds did I dare to come out. The first thing I did was open the door to find my dog. Goldie? Goldie? I called out twice from the doorway, and a yellow figure quickly appeared in the snow. I was overjoyed. He was indeed okay. Goldie had been with me for 12 years. He was like family. He had a patch of white fur on his forehead shaped like a gold ingot. My parents used to adore him. Goldie, come here. But the usually clingy dog ignored my call. Goldie didn't wag his tail. He just stood there, watching me from a distance. Woof, woof. Suddenly, he barked at me twice. Goldie? Woof woof woof. His barks became urgent. What was wrong? Was he just scared from earlier? I was about to step into the snow to bring him back, but before I could move, a chill ran down my spine. Something was wrong. The snow outside hadn't stopped falling. When the assailants had arrived, their footprints in the yard had already been covered by a fresh layer of snow. But I hadn't seen any footprints from them leaving. Could it be? I froze, not daring to move an inch. Almost at the same instant, 2 sets of footsteps sounded behind me. I told you someone was home. The coffee's still warm. Little girl, you're pretty good at hiding, huh? 4. My body went cold to the core. Fear seemed to freeze the blood in my veins. The image of my cousin's death flashed in my mind. Her clothes torn to shreds, her nearly naked body covered in wounds. Woof woof woof. Suddenly, sharp, urgent barks snapped me out of it. After only 2 or 3 seconds of terror, I cleared my head. Run! I bolted towards the road, but after just a few steps, I saw a van parked by the roadside, its lights flashing. I immediately realized it was probably the assailant's van. I abruptly changed direction and sprinted towards the back of the house. Behind me, Peter and the thin man reacted quickly, chasing after me in hot pursuit. Goldie also barked furiously and charged in my direction. But the situation was grim. The thin man was particularly athletic. I had run less than 20 yards before he was right beside me. The next second, danger struck. My hair was brutally yanked from behind. I cried out in pain and slowed down, then was violently pulled backward. The thin man grabbed my neck in a chokehold with one hand, while his other hand pressed down on my shoulder. He pinned me to the ground. As I fell, I saw the man's eyes under the brim of his hat. His eyelids drooped, his gaze was sinister and venomous. The thin man exuded a dangerous aura unique to killers. He pinched my chin, smiling. "Peter's got good taste. This little face is indeed quite pitifully attractive." I was about to faint from fear. I forced myself to stay calm. I absolutely couldn't let them slaughter me. My mind raced. The fat man wasn't there, he might have already left through the back door. I still had Goldie. 2 against 2, it wasn't necessarily a death sentence. Besides, the thin man didn't know. In the hand pressed behind my back, I was holding a pair of shears. "Damn dog, get off me." Suddenly, Peter's scream came from behind. Goldie had knocked him down. From the sound of it, Goldie had gone berserk, biting Peter wildly, making him roll around in pain. The thin man's attention was drawn by the commotion, and he glanced behind him. Now was my chance. I seized the opportunity, raised my right hand, and plunged the shears hard into the thin man's thigh. With a sickening squish, the tips pierced through his clothes and into his flesh. "Fuck you." He cursed loudly, clutching his wound in pain. I scrambled up and away from him. He instinctively tried to grab me, but I had anticipated it and kicked his hand hard several times. Crack. It sounded like a finger bone breaking. The thin man finally let go. I stumbled forward, his enraged shouts ringing in my ears. "You dare lay a hand on me, you damn bitch, just you wait. Tell Fats to stop watching the van, get him over here to help." Goldie quickly caught up with me. As he ran, he kept looking back and baring his teeth fiercely at the 2 men. Already injured, they didn't dare approach under Goldie's threat. We escaped to the area behind the house. Goldie tugged at the corner of my clothes, as if he had an idea and wanted to lead me somewhere. The suburban area I lived in was slated for demolition, and the neighbors had already moved out. We had planned to move next month, never expecting something like this to happen. Right now, the closest place to my house was my grandfather's, a few hundred yards away. Was Goldie trying to take me to Grandpa's? As the dog stopped, I knew the answer. He led me into a small wooden shed. It was a small storage shed behind my house, filled with junk and dog toys. The shed was very close to the front yard, I could even hear voices from there. Goldie wanted me to hide here. But was it safe? The shed did have a hidden cellar where I could hide. But our footprints were in the snow. If that thin man followed our tracks, he'd surely tear the shed apart. No, I couldn't stay here. I was about to take Goldie and run again. But when I turned around, the dog was gone. 5. Where did he go? The thin man and the others weren't fatally wounded, they could come over any minute. If I didn't leave now, I'd lose my chance. As I was burning with anxiety, suddenly, a strange sound came from outside. A rustling, like something dragging. I peeked out. I was immediately stunned by what I saw. Under the moonlight, Goldie was crouched low on all fours. His body covered my footprints as he crawled forward in the snow. Wherever he passed, my footprints were completely erased, leaving only his crawling tracks. He was that smart. Was this a level of intelligence a dog should have? I didn't have time to be amazed, I quickly cooperated with Goldie. I placed a discarded wooden board at the entrance to cover my footprints from when I came in. Now there was no trace that I had entered the shed. As Goldie continued to crawl, the tracks led deeper into the woods. A dozen seconds later, barks came from the woods. The thin man's shouts followed. Hear the dog barking? Follow that sound. The fat man, who had been called back, hesitated. Are we still looking? Didn't we already get the money? We have to. That girl stabbed me and almost broke my hand. I have to send her to hell tonight. Peter said, Don't. Such a pretty little thing, what a waste to kill her directly. Let's have some fun with her first. I even brought some special dishes today. The fat man looked troubled. How am I supposed to follow this? These tracks are weird, like something erased them. Why are you being such a wimp? The more they're erased, the more suspicious it is. Just follow the tracks. If you don't find her, we'll figure something else out. Anyway, I want her dead tonight. I had roughly figured out the personalities of these three assailants. The thin one was the leader, and the most ruthless. Peter was a lecher, only thinking about vile things. The fat one seemed to want to avoid trouble, just focused on getting the money. I hid myself among the pile of junk. After waiting for a while, heart pounding with fear, a shadow suddenly leaped in through the window. Goldie was back. I hugged the dog tightly and gently petted his head. Good boy. Thank goodness for him. Goldie had a scar on his eyelid. Grandpa had given it to him after the incident at my uncle's house. Back then, when Grandpa found out that Goldie was the one who had moved the cursed ball to my uncle's doorstep, he was furious. He beat Goldie viciously with a carrying pole, shouting, I'll beat you to death, you beast. Grandpa was hitting him hard, clearly intending to kill Goldie. 2-year-old Goldie wailed in pain, with nowhere to hide. My parents just sighed and didn't try to stop him. They felt they were, in a way, beneficiaries of what happened, and thought they had no right to stop Grandpa from punishing Goldie. I couldn't watch anymore. I threw myself over Goldie, shielding him with my body. Grandpa, if you want to hit someone, hit me. Goldie doesn't know anything. I was the one playing ball with him. Tina, get up. No. Not unless you stop. But Grandpa was relentless. You think this beast is a good dog? He's cunning. He deliberately caused your uncle's family to die. If I don't beat him to death today, I'll have failed our ancestors. Grandpa's behavior wasn't out of character. Both were his sons, but my uncle was much more successful than my dad, and his family was wealthier than ours. Deep down, Grandpa preferred my uncle's family. The carrying pole hit me. It hurt a lot, but I refused to get up. So you think only our family deserves to die? If it was our whole family dead today, would you still be this angry? I cried out, if you beat Goldie to death today, I'll never acknowledge you as my grandfather again. My words seemed to sober Grandpa up a bit. Having already lost his eldest son's family, he, who valued family prosperity most, also feared estrangement from the younger generation. In the end, Grandpa spared Goldie. At that moment, Goldie cowered in my arms, his dark eyes filled with terror. He licked my hand, as if saying thank you. After that, Grandpa always bullied Goldie, openly and secretly. For example, he'd deliberately knock over his food bowl, forcing Goldie to lick food off the ground. He'd randomly kick Goldie when passing by, making him yelp in pain. He also ordered my parents not to let Goldie sleep inside, only allowing a makeshift doghouse outside. Even worse, Grandpa once deliberately took Goldie far from home and abandoned him. Luckily, Goldie was smart and found his way back. Goldie is 12 this year. Grandpa always grumbles, why isn't this beast dead yet? Because of school, I couldn't always protect Goldie. Only during breaks like the winter vacation now could I spend some time with him. My reminiscence stopped. Goldie beside me let out a soft whimper. What's wrong? I ruffled his fur. Goldie brought over a hemp rope in his mouth. He looked up, signaling me to play with him. Not right now. We'll play after these guys leave, okay? Be good. Goldie loved playing with a specific type of knot, and had for almost 10 years. It was an extremely complex and intricate knot. It was difficult even for me to untie by hand, but Goldie spent 3 whole years learning how to undo it. After several more years of practice, he could now untie that knot very skillfully. To keep the dog from fussing, I tied a knot and tossed it to him to play with. Outside the shed, the fat man returned from the woods empty-handed. The thin man yelled at him, "Useless. Go check the shed out back." I tensed up immediately. I signaled Goldie to be absolutely quiet. I lifted the wooden planks covering the cellar entrance and went down, holding Goldie. After covering the entrance again, I picked up a wooden stick with a nail in it and held it tightly. I was most afraid of a direct confrontation. But if the cellar was discovered and I had to face the attackers, would still fight for a chance to survive. The sound of shoes crunching on snow reached my ears. It was the fat man, walking towards the shed. In the darkness, I held my breath, bracing myself. But before he reached the shed door, suddenly, a familiar call of Tina came. That sounded like my grandpa. 6. Tina. Another call. I was sure it was my grandpa's voice. Why would Grandpa come at this hour? The voice changed the fat man's plan. He didn't come into the shed but hurried back. Oh no, they're definitely going to target Grandpa. I instinctively started to rush out. But something held me back, forcefully stopping me. Goldie was biting my clothes, not letting me go. His eyes were full of pleading. It seemed he knew there was danger and wanted me not to go save Grandpa. "Little girl, that's your grandpa, right? If you don't come out, I'll send the old man to meet his maker. You know, this old geezer's got some guts, coming here with a knife at his age to save someone. Someone delivering themselves to my doorstep. No reason not to kill him." I heard the thin man shouting tauntingly. "Tina, don't worry about me. Today, I'm going to fight these animal bastards." Grandpa's aged voice drifted in the wind. Although I had once felt heartbroken by him. But thinking about how Goldie and I had caused my uncle's family's demise 10 years ago, and how Grandpa was braving danger tonight to help me escape, my heart softened. I climbed out of the cellar and said to Goldie, "Run, go get help for us. If you can't find anyone, then hide. Don't let the bad guys find you." I kissed the dog's forehead. "Good Goldie, you have to live." After that, I resolutely walked out of the shed. The dog behind me let out a mournful howl. I didn't dare look back at him. I walked into the yard. I completely exposed myself. Grandpa was being held by Peter. I raised my hands, signaling I wouldn't resist. "Let my grandpa go. I'll do whatever you want." Well, you came out obediently. Quite filial, aren't you?" Peter leered. "Whatever we want, huh? You said it. Don't forget that later." He was wearing thick clothes. The bite from Goldie wasn't serious. The thin man walked up and, without a word, kicked me hard in the stomach. I couldn't take it and collapsed to my knees. He then grabbed my chin and slapped me hard across the face several times. A metallic taste filled my mouth. He was retaliating for my earlier resistance. "You've got guts," stabbing a hole in my leg. "Just wait, you're in for it tonight." 7. Under their threats, I was taken back to my own house. Inside, the thin man personally tied up my and Grandpa's hands and feet with rope. The rope he used was special, smooth and tight, and it cut painfully into my wrists. I felt him carefully and meticulously tying the knot behind me. I realized escape was hopeless. "Where's that dog?" he asked me. I shook my head. "I don't know." "You don't know?" He nodded. "All right then." Walking over to the bound Grandpa, the thin man raised his hand. He plunged a knife into Grandpa's abdomen. "Grandpa." My eyes widened. Blood gushed out. Grandpa's face contorted in pain. "Now do you know where the dog is?" The thin man pulled the knife out and moved it to Grandpa's chest. "If you still don't know, I'll stab the old man again." Tears streaming, I shook my head. "The dog ran away, I really don't know where he went. Don't hurt my grandpa." The thin man was about to stab again when the fat one spoke up, "Slim, why don't we forget about the dog for now? Don't we need to heat up the food?" "Yeah, forget that beast. Let's get the booze and food. I packed oysters and chives this morning, thought I wouldn't get to use them tonight." Peter rubbed his hands excitedly. "I can't wait." "Fine, we'll ask later." The thin man put away his knife and pointed at the fat one. "You, go to the kitchen and heat up the food." I remembered the scene of my uncle's family's death. There were food scraps on the coffee table there too. They were all ingredients considered nourishing for men. The police had concluded they were an extremely brazen group of killers. After tying up my cousin and the others, the killers hadn't rushed to murder them. Instead, they ate and drank in front of them, uttering threats and obscenities. They pushed their victims to a psychological breaking point before torturing them cruelly. So the police's deductions were all true. Unfortunately, they had cleaned up too thoroughly, and the police hadn't found any DNA. 8. The three men took off their heavy coats, hats, and masks. I memorized their faces, but I didn't know if I'd ever see them brought to justice. The fat man went to heat the food. The thin man called out instructions to him. "The sea cucumber needs to be steamed. Don't add seasoning, you made it too salty last time. You didn't say so earlier." "I already added salt." "Damn it, useless. Let me show you." Saying that, the thin man also headed to the kitchen. Once he left, only Peter remained in the living room. He was sitting on the sofa, playing a very explicit video on his phone. It was loud, and the disgusting sounds filled the entire living room. My heart stirred. If I wanted to escape, now was the best chance. First step. I had to find a way to untie the ropes. The tricky part was that the rope binding me was the same as the one found scattered at my uncle's house back then. The police said this type of rope was made of special fibers, hard to cut even with a knife. Once tied, it could only be undone manually. The killers only untied the ropes after the murders, during the final search of the bodies. I reached behind me to feel the knot. Though I knew there wasn't much hope, I still wanted to see if I could untie it myself. Wait. The more I felt it, the stranger it seemed. Why did this knot feel so familiar? Before I could figure it out, a warm breath suddenly brushed against my palm, followed by the touch of soft fur. It was Goldie. Almost simultaneously, I realized this knot seemed to be the exact kind Goldie pestered me to play with every day. Goldie knew how to untie this kind of knot. The back door was ajar, the dog must have come in that way. Peter was engrossed in his video and hadn't noticed him at all. I felt Goldie's teeth and paws working hard on the rope. The next second, my wrists loosened. The rope was untied. I was ecstatic, wanting to hug and kiss the dog right then and there. I was so incredibly lucky to have such a smart dog. Come to think of it, Goldie had been obsessed with untying this kind of knot for years. Could it be because he had foreseen today? No, impossible. Even if Goldie was brilliant, he wasn't clairvoyant. I remembered his initial interest in this knot stemmed from the first time my dad took us to the city for rock climbing. At the climbing gym, Goldie had followed an instructor around, letting out excited low growls. It took me a long time to realize he was interested in the knot tied on the man's harness. The man, finding Goldie cute, taught me how to tie and untie the knot. From then on, Goldie became obsessed with untying knots. I had thought he was just being playful, never imagining it would help me so much today. After untying the rope, Goldie gently picked up a thin, cool object with his mouth and placed it in my palm. It was wet with Goldie's saliva. It was a fruit knife. I was shocked again. Feeling the pattern on the handle, I recognized it as the knife I had left in my room upstairs for peeling fruit. When had he gotten it? I didn't have time to dwell on it. I quickly untied the ropes on my ankles. I draped the ropes over myself to create the illusion that I was still tied up. From when the thin man left to when I successfully untied the ropes, only about 2 minutes had passed. There was still time. I cleared my throat, trying to get Peter's attention. "Hey mister, the ropes are too tight. Could you loosen them a bit for me?" Peter looked at me, his eyes lecherous. "Help me out, can you?" I asked again. "You're quite demanding. Let me see." Before he even reached me, I switched to a secretive tone. "Shoo, quiet down. Don't let them hear." Peter looked confused. "Mister, I only dare say this while those two aren't here. Among the three of you, you're the one who attracts me the most. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back willingly." "What do you mean?" He looked puzzled but excited. I pursed my lips, signaling him to come closer. "I have a few words just for you." He complied, bending down and leaning his ear towards my mouth. The phone on the coffee table continued to play the explicit video. It seemed to be at a climax. The voices from the phone were particularly loud. Along with those nauseating sounds, I spoke softly. "Peter, my dear, I want you to." "Want me to what?" "Want you to die." With a backhand motion, gathering my strength, I unhesitatingly plunged the fruit knife into his neck. Blood spurted out. I instinctively closed my eyes. Before he could react, I opened my eyes and stabbed him repeatedly. I only stopped when Peter's eyes widened and he collapsed to the floor. The whole thing happened too fast. He didn't even have time to make a sound before I stabbed him to death. I quickly went to check on Grandpa. Fortunately, Grandpa was still breathing. I quickly got a towel to press against his wound. I only felt relieved once the bleeding stopped. After tending to Grandpa, I moved quietly and reached the kitchen doorway. 9. Inside the kitchen, the thin man stood with his back to the door, chatting with the fat one. Seeing them engrossed in conversation, I initially planned to take Grandpa and escape. But their conversation caught my attention. I heard the thin man sighing. Back in the day, old Tom's sea cucumber and pork kidney dish was incredible. Too bad, his own fault for being disloyal. The fat man was stirring the food, and without looking up, he said, "I wasn't there the night you guys killed Tom. Otherwise, I'd definitely have stopped you. We were all brothers working together. A lesson would have been enough, no need to kill him, right? Killing his whole family was way too much. Damn it, you'll never change that hypocritical saintly heart of yours. You think I wanted to kill Tom? We agreed from the start, no matter how much we made, we'd split it evenly. But he was siphoning off so much money behind our backs. We're all risking our necks for this, why should he get the most? I couldn't stand it, so I had to kill his whole family." Who were they talking about? Tom? Wait a minute. Tom? Isn't that my uncle's name? Could it be that my uncle was one of them before he died? Was his family wiped out because of a double cross among thieves? I could hardly believe my ears. But if these guys were targeting my uncle's house back then, why was the ball at my doorstep? Then I heard the fat man say again, "Sigh, anyway, let's not kill anyone anymore. I'm afraid of getting executed and having no one to take care of my parents." Besides, after that family annihilation, the police cracked down hard. You guys haven't killed anyone in years. Let's not take any lives tonight, okay? No way. We can't go soft this time. I want that girl outside dead. Don't you think she looks familiar? What, you know her? Not only was the fat man puzzled, I was shocked too. Why was the thin man so determined to kill me? I heard him answer, "It's the dog." I'd recognize it even if it were ashes. Back when I killed Tom's family, after I strangled his daughter, I saw a yellow mutt lying by the window. That dog had a gold ingot-shaped white patch on its forehead, and its eyes were cunning as a monkey's. It saw everything Peter and I did. I wanted to stab it to death, but it was too fast, I couldn't catch it. By the time I chased it outside, the dog was gone. I've never forgotten that beast's eyes, they gave me the creeps. I thought back then, if I ever ran into it again, I'd definitely kill it. It's much smarter than Tom's little black dog. That night, the black dog barked non-stop when it saw me, and I killed it without much trouble. Only this old yellow dog stayed quiet today, otherwise I would have dealt with it before I even came in. I just recognized this girl too. She's Tom's niece. She was just a little kid at the time of the massacre. I saw her go to Tom's house before dinner that day. No wonder. No wonder, even though my uncle and my father were both laborers, his family was so much wealthier than ours. So my uncle had been colluding with these people all along, involved in robbery. He brought death upon his own family through his evil deeds, and also caused Goldie to be unjustly blamed. My hand holding the fruit knife tightened involuntarily. I wanted to stab this villain to death right then and there. As if sensing something. The moment I raised the knife, the thin man casually glanced back. Seeing me, his face turned pale with shock. "You? How did you untie the ropes?" His first reaction was that his accomplice had betrayed him. "Peter, you just let her go like that? Believe it or not, I'll chop you up too." He casually grabbed a cleaver from the cutting board. The thin man menacingly advanced towards me. I instinctively backed away. Only when I was out of the kitchen did the thin man glimpse Peter lying in a pool of blood. His expression changed completely. Well. I underestimated you, girl. I've robbed so many houses, and you're the first one who managed to untie that knot. Too bad for you, it's useless now. I'm sending you on your way right now." Saying that, he raised the cleaver and charged at me. I was forced back into a corner, with nowhere to retreat. Just as he was about to strike me dead with one blow, that familiar yellow figure lunged forward. Caught off guard, the thin man stumbled and was knocked down, dropping the cleaver. Man and dog instantly began to wrestle. I instinctively wanted to help Goldie, but something pressed against my back. "Don't move." The fat man's voice. My heart tightened. Perhaps sensing I was in danger, Goldie looked in my direction. That one glance gave the thin man his chance. He quickly pulled another short knife from his belt and stabbed Goldie hard in the stomach. Blood spurted out. "Goldie." This sudden turn of events was so unexpected, my expression instantly contorted. "Goldie." I wanted to rush over and help him, but the fat man grabbed my arm, and I couldn't break free. After being injured, Goldie froze for a moment. Then he bared his fangs, his fur bristled, and he let out a roar like a lion. He lunged at the thin man's face like mad, focusing his attack on his eyes and nose. The thin man screamed in pain, rolling on the ground while swinging the short knife at Goldie. Dark red liquid slowly flowed out. It was hard to tell if it was human or dog blood. Man and dog rolled from the living room to the foot of the stairs. Neither would let the other go, both clearly intent on killing the other. Because he had to restrain me, the fat man couldn't go help his accomplice. After fiercely biting off a large chunk of the thin man's flesh, Goldie stumbled out of the house. He left the house. 10. The thin man was very badly injured. His eyes seemed to be blinded. He clutched his mangled face, screaming incessantly. "Is that girl dead? Fats, did you kill her?" The fat man was clearly terrified too. "Not yet. Kill her. Kill her for me now." The fat man looked hesitant but didn't move. Do it now. Disobey me. Believe it or not, I'll kill you too, Fats, you son of a bitch. He tried to get up and attack us but failed several times. Beasts. You pack of beasts. You're as worthless as that dead dog. I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. The thin man had completely lost it. I couldn't bear it anymore. I broke free from the fat man's grasp and, holding the knife, went to the thin man. Thinking of my dog. Without hesitation, I stabbed him in the stomach. This one is for Goldie. The fat man was shocked but didn't stop me. I stabbed the thin man in the leg again. This one is also for Goldie. Another stab in the arm. This is for Goldie too. On his foot. His forehead. His chest. I nearly stabbed him full of holes. The thin man's voice grew weaker until he finally stopped struggling. He was completely breathless. As if all my strength had been drained, I dropped the knife and collapsed to the floor. I had killed this madman. I had succeeded. I looked up at the fat man. He showed no intention of harming me. Knowing his character, I spoke first. Go turn yourself in. I can consider signing a letter of understanding for you. Or if you don't want to go to jail right away, then run now. After this ordeal, the fat man seemed to have suffered a huge psychological blow as well. He lowered his head and sighed, I'll turn myself in. I've had enough of this life a long time ago. I nodded and asked him. My phone couldn't make calls. Was that your doing? Yes. Slim said no one should be able to call the police during the operation, so he spent a lot of money on the best signal jamming equipment. Just as I thought. So, what you guys said about Tom just now, was it true? That's right. We were a team back then, but Tom always hid money before splitting the loot, treating Slim like a fool. That's why Slim was so ruthless. Who placed the ball back then? I did. I wasn't involved in the home invasion and murder. I just put the ball at your uncle's doorstep a day before. Then why did the ball appear at my doorstep? At your house? The fat man was shocked. How's that possible? I know Tom's house. I wouldn't have put it in the wrong place. Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Positive. I wouldn't mess up something like that. I waved my hand, not wanting to pursue it further. Never mind. You call the police. I need to find my dog. 11. Outside. In the messy, disturbed snow, a streak of crimson was strikingly conspicuous. Following the winding trail of blood, I tracked Goldie. At first, it was a thin line of blood, then it gradually widened. The blood trail showed he hadn't gone back to his doghouse, nor to the shed where we had hidden. Instead, he had gone into the woods. I'd heard that dogs hide from their owners when they're about to die. Goldie running so far clearly meant his chances of survival were slim. My legs trembled, and I suddenly felt afraid to continue following. Goldie. Goldie. I called his name, my voice choking with uncontrollable sobs. The snow fell heavier, mixed with the howling wind. Soon, under a tree, I finally saw that yellow figure. Goldie's injuries were horrifying to look at. There was hardly a patch of intact skin on his body. I wanted to pick him up but didn't know where to hold him. Seeing me, he instinctively tried to nudge his head into my palm. But he didn't even have the strength to lift his head. Goldie, the bad guys are dead. We can go home now. I cupped his head and pressed my face against his. Warm tears flowed onto his fur. Come home with me, okay? I'll build you a new doghouse, a big, beautiful one, I promise. I won't go to school anymore, we'll go out and play every day, I'll be with you every day. He wagged his tail almost imperceptibly. He seemed very happy. But gradually, his eyelids drooped. Whether it was contentment or regret, Goldie let out a short whimper. After one last lick on my cheek, he closed his eyes forever. Goldie. I completely broke down, throwing my head back and wailing. Goldie, Goldie. But no matter how I called, my dog would never respond to me again. The snow never stopped. I don't know how much time passed. I picked up Goldie's cooling body and walked towards home. I seemed to have figured some things out. That night, 10 years ago, after witnessing the entire process of my uncle's family's murder, he had remembered that knot. For a long time after, he had been searching for that specific kind of knot. There were clues all along. For example, whenever he encountered a shop owner using hemp rope to tie goods, Goldie would always circle around them with interest. If he saw beer crates tied with rope, he would go up and sniff them. Even when Mom used rope to tie up woven plastic bags, he would paw at them and examine them. He searched persistently like this for 2 years, and finally, at the rock climbing gym, he found the same knot the assailants used. He spent over 2 years finding it, another 3 years learning to untie it, and for the following 5 years, he practiced it repeatedly. If it weren't for him, tonight I would have become the second version of my cousin. I don't know how Goldie managed to be clairvoyant. Perhaps it was a dog's sensitivity. He was afraid the assailants would target my uncle's relatives. Or maybe, when he saw my uncle and his family despairing because they couldn't untie the ropes, he thought of his own owner. In any case, his efforts were not in vain. He successfully saved me. And Grandpa. Right, speaking of Grandpa. There was something else I also figured out. 12. In the living room. Grandpa was awake. He lay on the floor, staring intently at the thin man's corpse. There was a strange sense of satisfaction in his eyes. Like the gratification of having a great revenge fulfilled. Squatting down beside him, I asked softly, "Grandpa, did you really come to save me tonight?" Grandpa frowned slightly. "Or were you just trying to avenge your eldest son? That ball back then, you were the one who put it at our house, weren't you?" The old man's eyes widened. He opened his mouth, as if to deny it. But when he spoke, it was to scold me impatiently. "Why bring that up? It's all in the past. Hurry up and untie me." Grandpa didn't answer directly. But I already knew the answer. I had guessed it. Back then, when the fat man put the ball at my uncle's doorstep, Goldie saw it. Grandpa had also witnessed the whole thing. After all, he lived next door to my uncle and always liked to sit with his teacup, looking towards his favorite eldest son's house. Although he didn't know what the ball represented, seeing the fat man furtively placing it, he knew it wasn't a good omen. Therefore, Grandpa moved that ball to our doorstep. Whatever disaster the ball might bring, he wanted our family to bear it instead of my uncle's. But what Grandpa didn't know was, our family had the smartest dog in the world. He returned the ball to my uncle's house. I asked him again, "Did you know what Uncle was doing behind everyone's back?" Grandpa turned his face away, unwilling to talk more. "Why are you talking nonsense? Did you call an ambulance for me?" It seemed he knew. He knew everything. Even though his eldest son was a villain, he still favored him unconditionally. My expression gradually turned cold. Thinking of how much Goldie had suffered because of his unfair treatment, hatred grew wildly in my heart. I yanked away the towel I had used to stop his bleeding and said coldly, "Since you love your eldest son so much, then go down and join him." He was shocked. What are you doing?" Grandpa arched his body, frantically trying to cover the wound. "Tina. Give me back the towel. I need to stop the bleeding." But with his hands and feet bound, he couldn't cover it. Blood flowed out as if from an open floodgate. This was his retribution. It had just come too late. "Give it back. Tina, Grandpa's begging you." Grandpa promises, I'll never be biased again, just give it back to me. I stood up coldly, ignoring his pleas. Crocodile tears are the last thing you should believe. He didn't know. Goldie was a yellow mutt, the kind that's supposed to be the best at guarding a home. He owed that dog far too much. When I was 10, I found a little yellow puppy by a field. Its eyes were wet and glistening, and on its forehead was a small tuft of white fur shaped like a gold ingot. I immediately wanted to keep him and carefully looked at my parents' faces. My mother was also amazed. This puppy has a gold ingot on its head. Let's take him home and call him Goldie. I was ecstatic. Goldie, hello, I'm Tina. I held its tiny paw, and it stuck out its tongue and licked my hand. Just like the last time it licked me, before it died. Goldie lived for a total of 12 years. Because of an old man's malicious targeting. He never had much happiness in his life. Last night, the murderers from the family annihilation case years ago, by a strange twist of fate, targeted my home again. During the fight with the assailants, that old man unfortunately died from excessive blood loss. And my Goldie, to save me, was hacked to death by the killer. Those few short sentences were everything I told the police. They uncovered the whole truth, including the secrets buried with my uncle. Some marveled at my luck, saying that such a complex knot had never been successfully untied by any victim. I was the first and only one in history. But they didn't know that my dog helped me untie the knot. To untie that rope, he spent almost his entire life. The price was his own life.